Hi guys, so a while ago I posted a video discussing building community based around your original characters, and in that video I talked about how Tumblr Askblogs are my favorite way to build a connection between viewers and your OCs, and have since had many people ask various questions on starting Askblogs and maintaining the motivation to keep working on them, especially in the beginning. And that's very fair because it can feel crazy awkward at the start when you don't have anyone interacting and you're unsure what to do. But rest assured that's just part of the process, and today I'm going to give you some tips for starting and maintaining OC Askblogs. Now, I myself have only been in the Askblog community for about 3 years, so I worried that I may not be the best person to give this advice or that I might not have enough for a whole video, so I got my friend Chase to help us out. There are many new faces here. My audience has left my social circle, so many of you will not know Chase, but for a brief introduction, Chase, or Stray Calamity on Blue Sky and Tumblr, has been in the Askblog community for over a decade, and even his Askblogs that ended years ago still have active fandoms. Back in the height of the Onceler fandom, he started an AU called Truffulaflu, and he, with a small group of others, ran more story-based blogs. That story never fully finished, but Truffulaflu branched out to other artists and characters as well, and is still an active AU today. He also has other Askblogs that are less story-driven, some being from back around 10 years ago, like Entra's main blog, and some from recent years, like eBoy. So there are his qualifications, and I will leave the links to his stuff in the description. Definitely check him out. It would have been fun to both be able to speak here like a proper collab or something, but I don't think that would have been possible, so instead he has written us a bunch of advice that I'm gonna go over and add input where I can. So everyone give a big thanks to Chase for helping hugely with the writing of this video. He did not need to go as hard as he did. Man had a lot to say, and I appreciate that. To run an Askblog, it is absolutely not necessary to be good at art or writing or whatever media you are using. You don't even need to fully know your OC yet. It is entirely possible to have an Askblog without doing art at all, but do keep in mind that writing only Askblogs do take like 20 times more effort to get off the ground than Askblogs with visuals do. Even if you're not an artist, having any kind of visual will help you out a lot, but do know that it is possible to do so without them. It just will take more work. And I'm gonna be so real, when I made Amari's first blog, I did so on an absolute whim and knew nothing about him or what I wanted to do. So he was a very gimmicky Onceler OC blog at the start before he became his own character and I figured out what I wanted to do. Now, what you do want to know right away is what type of Askblog you're running. What is the foundation gonna be? Is your blog entirely in the hands of askers and relies solely on asks? Is it specifically a roleplay blog that you will be actively playing with other people on, and therefore you will need to seek out other people? Or is there an overall narrative with a story that you have drafted out beforehand? Is it a mix of all three? There's no right or wrong method, it's entirely up to you, and all of them are great, but having an idea of how you want to go about your blog will help you have an easier time knowing where you want to go and whatnot, and what to do when you feel stuck. Your OC itself really does not need to be fleshed out yet. The act of running an Askblog is so good for coming up with stuff on the spot. So like if you have a general personality idea, you're good, and even that can be changed later. Amari's personality has changed so much since the start of his first blog. Like I've said in the past, sometimes changes are necessary as you grow and improve in your writing or ideas, and that's totally chill. However, it will be in your best interest to have a very dynamic personality, especially in your first blog. The more interesting your character's personality is, the more curious people will be about them. The example that Chase used is that if your character is somebody who only wants to be in bed all day and has no desire to learn or engage with the people and world around them, then it can be really hard to get them off the ground. It's not impossible, but it's gonna be tricky, especially for beginners to the scene, and you want your first experience to be as fun as possible. It'll be most beneficial to have a character who's got some curiosity to them or is dynamic in the way they respond to things. There's many ways to do this, and how you want to approach this is totally up to you, but the easier it is to create a lively scene with your character, the easier it will be to keep ripples going with them. You make ripples in the scene with every post you make, and those are very important as they direct people to your ask box. Now, this does not mean that every post needs to be like a masterpiece and super intriguing and super thought out, but like, put some thought into how a post could lead into a next post. What questions could people have about it? Can you use it in a future story? Is it a hint to something about your character? How does this display your character's personality, etc., etc.? For example, if someone asks about your character's favorite something, you could just answer flat out, but then that's kind of just it. Say an Anon asks Amari his favorite color. He could just be all like, oh, it's pink. But then that's it. That's the post. That's the blog. Thank you for coming. See you next post. And no. You don't want to do that. I mean, you can. I can't stop you, but like, that's not ideal. First of all, personality-wise, if you were to ask Amari his favorite color, he'd probably just look at you like, are you joking? Or... But he's also a bit of a yapper. Dude's desperate for human connection. So after his initial confused, are you serious moment, he'd probably end up giving some kind of gush about how pink's always been his favorite color because it's really pretty, and in school his best friend started calling him Pink as a nickname, and now that's kind of just what a lot of people have called him since. Now, specific art and dialogue choices could put a different emotion into this information tidbit. For example, the topic of the mentioned best friend is an extremely sensitive one to Amari, and the entirety of that cannot and should not be conveyed in this one ask, especially for a light question like favorite color. However, his tone, wording, body language, expression, etc. could and likely would have hints of masked bitterness and discomfort at the mention. Yet the nickname is not ruined for him, otherwise he would not have brought it up to a stranger. Pink is a name that's been used both endearingly and condescendingly for him. It's an extremely simple and obvious nickname that just about anybody who looked at him would come up with any intention. But mentally to him, it'll always be tied to one person who has had a very strong and very complicated effects on him. He's also probably been called it more than his real name. It's very intertwined to his perception of himself and his identity, so while it's just a basic fact about him that yes, many people call him Pink, bringing up the origin of the nickname is vulnerable to him. And somebody is bound to pick that up, yet it's subtle enough for a casual conversation. None of this would be expressed in the post or the answer itself, yet with just a few subtle, conscious decisions on how he delivers the answer, the door would be left open for anybody who wants to pry. I yapped about this a bit longer than I intended, but the point is, give things askers can nibble at in your responses. Try not to answer very point blank. You want your answers to have personality, and you want to try to deliver them in a way that could give other people curiosity about something more. Now, you probably won't be able to do this for every ask ever, and that is okay, but like, just something to keep in mind when you're answering even simple questions. Because you will get lots of very simple questions, and you need to come up with creative ways to deal with them and work them into the blog. Chase adds on to this that this whole ripple concept can be easier if you have a bit of a narrative flair to your blog, so even if your ask box is dry, you still have your own stories and arcs to fall back on, and those will give people something to react to. And to also throw in little tidbits into your post even if they aren't important. He gives the example of maybe your OC tripped and now suddenly has a band-aid or something. Just anything that your character has not talked about themselves but people paying attention can point out and ask about. This can be quite rewarding to people who are following along to find little hints and tidbits you have slipped in, but if people don't notice, don't feel discouraged. You can always just bring these things up yourself if you want to and no one else points them out. On a similar note, do not be afraid to send yourself asks, especially at the start. I promise that nearly every ask blog ever does it at some point. It'll be really hard to get asks in the beginning, and there's zero shame in sending yourself some anons. Or if no one's asking the questions you want to answer, you can always just send them yourself, especially if it's important narratively. Chase says that he still does this a decade later, and I can say I've done this too. I also used to sometimes have friends send me questions that I wanted to answer, then their exact wording was still a surprise to me. Sometimes I'd lore dump to friends and then they'd show up in my ask box trying to steer the discussion that way. And sometimes you just think of a really funny interaction and you have to send in the question to get the interaction yourself. Whatever it is, just go ahead. It's not cheating or anything, we've all done it. Although I would hold out on sending yourself questions that you really want to answer as long as you can handle, because it is much more rewarding and exciting for it to happen organically. People will also be more invested if the questions come from other characters rather than anons. Building dynamics with other people's OCs is not only half the fun, but also really draws people in. Now, I've said this at least once on my channel, and Chase brings it up here, but get comfortable with the idea that no one cares about your OC at first. You do, your friends do, but no one else knows them, and it could take a while before anyone cares. But what's so cool about Askblogs is that they have the chance to. They can interact and form a bond with your OC that people rarely can or do with people's OCs. But you need to understand that there's a lot of work that you have to put into before that comes. So get comfy with the idea of being a nobody for a while. Get comfy with getting 0 notes on some posts. Get comfortable with not having any asks sometimes. Having lots of work to do does not mean that you need to become a master of your craft for people to care, but you do need to put love, effort, and thought into your blog. You get back what you put into it. I think anyone I know in the Askblog community would agree that it's so fulfilling and worth it though. Your OC will be so damn fleshed out with likes and dislikes and useless facts that you never would have come up with otherwise, and people asked you those things one at a time. Y'all as a little community built that character brick by brick. Fun fact, Amari has a Hello Kitty tramp stamp tattoo that an Anon demanded that he get like a year or so ago, and I just didn't have the heart to get rid of it, so it's just real now. It's just part of him. Chase made a joke of how they become like little guys in your brain that tell you the answers themselves, and that's very real. I joke all the time about how I do not control Amari, he simply tells me what I need to know. Like, I catch myself saying things like, I headcanon about my own OCs. Not only can other people bond with your OCs, but I feel like you will also bond with them much more than you realize you will. And if you're able to get other people to build connections to your OCs, those are bonds that will last for years. Whether it be them with you, them with your OC, their OC with your OC, whatever, they will stick around. Something that is super duper important, and we have briefly touched on this already, do not pay attention to numbers, like at all. Do not look at your follower account, do not look at the notes on your post, do not compare yourself to other Askblogs. It is so important that you do not compare yourself to other Askblogs. Every Askblog is different and offers different things. Different designs, different themes, different personalities, and everything they have to offer is so important, and the different ideas and diversity in the community is so important. You are the only you in the Askblog scene. No one else can replicate what you have to offer. Sometimes certain ideals appeal to people more than others. Some ideas and themes need more development and more time to get their foothold. It just depends, and it doesn't mean that you're doing a bad job or that your idea is worse. You are doing just fine. When I deleted Amari's first Askblog, the main reason why I did it is because I wanted to take some time to decide for sure what I wanted to do with him. It was mostly a decision that I made for the sake of him and myself, and ultimately it was the correct decision. And I'm starting again. It's not like I abandoned the Askblog scene. However, another reason why I did it is because at the time, mentally, I was not doing great, and I convinced myself that nobody cared. I convinced myself that nobody was paying attention, and that no one liked him, and that no one appreciated him, and which was just a stupid mindset to get into, and it was largely due to my environment at the time. But it was very untrue, even at the time, but I didn't realize it until after I deleted the blog, and I started getting asks asking where he went and why is he gone and will he be back and please bring him back, and I felt so fucking bad. If you give up and disappear, there will be people who are sad. Don't be sad. Don't make people sad. Amari's original Askblog actually did quite well in terms of follower numbers, but there were still times where some of his posts only got like 0 to 5 notes. Some people will like everything you post, some people are more choosy. There's nothing wrong with either, and don't think about it too hard. People are still reading, people are still seeing, people still care, even if they're caring from the sidelines. Sometimes people backread your blog all at once and don't want to spam your notifications with likes, etc., or forget to like while they're reading. Tumblr really is not the place to be focusing on numbers. I don't think you should ever focus on numbers, but especially on Tumblr. It's just not the point. If your engagement or whatever does stress you out, do take a step back and prioritize just having fun. Prioritize focusing on what you're doing and what you want to do. If you focus on becoming a big name or having a well-known OC, then like, you're not gonna have fun, and you might even grow to resent that OC. An extra little tip, but Tumblr doesn't really have an algorithm, so don't take this in like an algorithm type way, but try to pay attention to when your followers are most online, and try to post during those times. Again, not for any algorithm reasons, but because then those people will be more likely to react and send you in asks live, like in live time. And that's more fun, that's a lot more fun, and they will enjoy that more, and they're less likely to miss your posts then. Like, do whatever fits your schedule most, and the great thing with having a Tumblr Ask blog is there is not really an algorithm, so you don't really necessarily have to be consistent. Nobody is allowed to be all like, Rocky, you only have one post on your Ask blog. I know. I have had no time to draw for answers, and I'm very devastated about it. But like, an Ask blog shouldn't be something you need to stress about with your schedule. I think the most important thing to reinstate is, again, just have fun. If you're clearly having fun, then people will be more interested. Something I wanted to mention is that my Askblogs following list is public. If you want Askblogs to follow, I recommend you scroll through there and just follow a bunch. And if you are an Askblog and you want to be on there so that other people can find you, shoot me a message or something on that blog and I'll follow you, or I'll follow as many people as I can, and then that should hopefully give you guys like a list to go through of Askblogs to follow and interact with and meet people. I'm not saying this to try to get like followers on asks on my blog, because like I said, I have no time right now to answer asks. Honestly, the last thing I need is more asks because I'm so swarmed right now. But I want to help you guys find more blogs, and there are many blogs that I love, that I am following, that I want to draw more attention to, so definitely just go through my following list on my Ask blog and follow a bunch of people. And again, shoot me a message on there that you're an Ask blog, and I will try to follow back as many people, so the list will hopefully be growing continuously, so like check in on it sometimes. But I think that's all I've got for now. Definitely remember to go check out Chase's stuff and follow Chase and thank him for the help on this video. Chase, if you're watching this, thank you so much for your help and bestowing your wisdom upon us. I had a lot of fun with this video. This is a topic that means a lot to me, and I'm hoping more people join the community. As always, my socials and any other relevant information will be in the description. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later.